do a live series where I'm just going to read the 2030 agenda, okay, for sustainable development. It's a lot to read, so I figured I could just do it in sections. It's 41 pages. There's a index and then a few other pages, so it kind of starts on, the meat of it starts on page 5. But this is from the World Economic Forum, and they have their goals, their sustainability goals, or 17 goals, and they want to achieve them by 2030. And then they also have 2050 goals. And then the United Nations has adopted a lot of this stuff and then has their own packet. So I'm just gonna do a live reading, and then people can learn about it in their time. I'll put my phone up here because it's a lot to read and it gets kind of boring and nobody's reading it. So I'm gonna read it off my other computer. This is live blind reaction. Transforming our world, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The Preamble. This agenda is a plan, action for people, planet, and prosperity. It also seeks to strengthen universal peace and larger freedom. We recognize that eradicating poverty in all its forms and dimensions, including extreme poverty, is the greatest global challenge and an indispensable requirement for sustainable development. You guys can go back and watch. I'll just post these lives and then you can listen to them in your time. But again, this is the agenda. So why our world is forever changing and we are like, what's really going on? This is why, because this agenda is the agenda. So things moving in this direction is what we're going to see. All countries and all stakeholders acting in collaborative partnership will implement this plan. We are resolved to free the human race from the tyranny of poverty and want to heal and secure our planet. We are determined to take the bold and transformative steps which are urgently needed to shift the world on to a sustainable and resilient path. As we embark on this collective journey, we pledge that no one will be left behind. The 17 sustainable developmental goals and 169 targets which we are announcing today. I think this was in 2015 when they planned all of this out. Demonstrate the scale and ambition of this new universal agenda. They seek to build on the Millennium Development Goals and complete what they did not achieve. They seek to realize the human rights of all and to achieve gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls. They are integrated and indivisible and balance the 3 dimensions of sustainable development: the economic, social, and environmental. The goals and targets which stimulate action over the next 15 years in areas of critical importance for humanity and the planet are as follows. People, we are determined to end poverty and hunger in all forms and dimensions, and to ensure that all human beings can fulfill their potential in dignity and equality in a healthy environment. Planet. We are determined to protect the planet from degradation, including through sustainable consumption and production, sustainably managing its resources, and taking urgent action on climate change so that it can support the needs of the present and future generations. Prosperity. We are determined to ensure that all human beings can enjoy prosperous and fulfilling lives, and that economic, social, and technological progress occurs in harmony with nature. Peace. We are determined to foster peaceful, just, and inclusive societies which are free from fear and violence. There can be no sustainable development without peace, and no peace without sustainable development. Again, these are the 2030 goals. There's 17 of them from the World Economic Forum. I'm just going to read them and post them so that eventually over time we know the agenda, right? Partnership. We are determined to mobilize the means required to implement this agenda through a revitalized global partnership for sustainable development based on a spirit of strengthened global solidarity, focused in particular on the needs of the poorest and most vulnerable, and with the participation of all countries, all stakeholders, and all people. This is interesting. The interlinkages and integrated nature of the Sustainable Development Goals are of crucial importance in ensuring that the purpose of the new agenda is realized. If we realize our ambitions across the full extent of the agenda, the lives of all will be profoundly improved, and our world will be transformed for the better. Declaration, introduction. Guys ever hear the heads in Revelations? This is where they come from, I think. Number 1, we, the heads of the state and government, and high representatives meeting at United Nations headquarters in New York from 25 to 27 September 2015, as the organization celebrates its 70th. We have decided, okay, I added we, sorry, it's a comma, have decided today on new global sustainable development goals. So this was like right during the Trump and Hillary election, right? Maybe a year prior, right? Because basically the election happened in November of 2016, and then, yeah, we know what happened. Number 2, on behalf of the people we serve, we have adopted a historic decision on a comprehensive, far-reaching, and people-centered set of universal and transformative goals and targets. We commit ourselves to working tirelessly for the full implementation of this agenda by 2030. We recognize that eradicating poverty in all its forms and dimensions, including extreme poverty, is the greatest global challenge and an indispensable requirement for sustainable development. We are committed to achieving sustainable development in its 3 dimensions: economic, social, and environmental, in a balanced and integrated manner. We will also build upon the achievements of the Millennium Development Goals and seek to address their unfinished business. Number 3, we resolve between now, this was in 2015, And 2030 to end poverty and hunger everywhere, to combat inequalities within and among countries, to build peaceful, just, and inclusive societies, to protect human rights and promote gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls, to ensure the lasting protection of the planet and its natural resources. We resolve also to create conditions for sustainable and inclusive and sustained economic growth, shared prosperity, and decent work for all, taking into account different levels of national development and capacities. As this is number 4, paragraph 4, as we embark on this great collective journey, we pledge that no one will be left behind, recognizing that the dignity of the human person is fundamental. We wish to see the goals and targets met for all nations and peoples and for all segments of society. And we endeavor to reach the furthest behind first. Number 5, this is an agenda of unprecedented scope and significance. It is accepted by all countries. So this is the whole world, apparently. It's all the countries have accepted this. And is applicable to all, taking into account different national realities, capacities, and levels of development, and respecting national policies and priorities. These are universal goals. And targets which involve the entire world, developed and developing countries alike. They are integrated and indivisible and balance the 3 dimensions of sustainable, hear the theme, development. Number 6, the goals and targets are the result of over 2 years of intensive public consultation and engagement with civil society and other stakeholders around the world, which paid particular attention to the voices of the poorest and most vulnerable. This consultation included valuable work done by Open Working Group of the General Assembly on Sustainable Development Goals and by the United Nations, whose Secretary General provided a synthesis report in December of 2014. Our vision. Number 7, in these goals and targets, we are setting out a supremely ambitious and transformational vision. We envisage a world free of poverty, hunger, disease, and where all life can thrive. We envisage a world free of fear and violence, a world with universal literacy, a world with equitable and universal access to quality education at all levels, to health care and social protection, where physical and mental social well-being are assured, a world where we affirm our commitments regarding the human right to safe drinking water, affordable and nutritious, and sanitation, and where there is improved hygiene and where food is sufficient, affordable, and nutritious. Yeah, well, we have not gotten there yet. So what's the plan? A world where human habitats are safe, resilient, and sustainable. It's a drinking game. Every time you hear sustainable. And where there is universal access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy. Okay, don't even get me going on energy. Ooh, that's actually the business I'm in. So green energy is not as reliable or affordable, just FYI. We envisage a world of universal respect for human rights, human dignity, the rule of law, justice, equality, non-discrimination, and respect for race, ethnicity and culture diversity, and equal opportunity, permitting the full realization of human potential and contributing to shared prosperity. A world which invests in its children and in which every child grows up free from violence and exploitation. Right. So children needed to take the J-8A-B because why? Because why? Why? For their own safety. Yeah. Okay. A world, yeah, they invest in children. A world in which every woman and girl enjoys full gender equality and all legal, social, and economic barriers to their empowerment have been removed. A just, equitable, tolerant, open, and social inclusive world which the needs of the most vulnerable are met. We envisage a world in which every country enjoys sustained, inclusive, sustainable economic growth from decent work for all, a world in which consumption, production patterns, the use of natural resources from air to land to rivers, lakes, aquifers, ocean, seas are sustainable. So they keep dumping pollutions in the ocean, though. They keep doing that to make all these clothes that are made out of plastic, polyester. Yeah. See, we're not going to worry about they can't help the environment until people stop. I don't know. There's so many, I mean, it's just people want cheap stuff and they end up in landfills. So that's, I don't see that being stopped anytime soon. As much as they can say they want all this crap. Okay. Not that it's crap, but including sustained inclusive economic growth, social development, environmental protection, and the eradication of poverty and hunger. One is that why Bill Gates is making like fake meat. I guess they're going to print it in a lab or something. So, yeah. That's where they're getting at with this, okay? One in which development and application of technology are climate sensitive, respect biodiversity, and are resilient. One in which human lives in harmony with nature and in which wildlife and other living species are protected. Our shared principles and commitments. 10, the new agenda is guided by the purpose of and principles of the Charter of the United Nations, including full respect for international law. It is grounded in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, international rights treaties, the Millennium Declaration, and the 2005 World Summit outcome. It is informed by other instruments such as the Declaration on the Right to Development. 11, we affirm the outcome of all major United Nations conferences and summits, which have laid solid foundation in sustainable development and have helped to shape the new agenda. These include the Rio Declaration on Environment and Development, the World Summit on Sustainable Development, the World Summit for Social Development, the Beijing Platform for Action, and the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development. We also reaffirm the follow-up to these conferences, including the outcomes of the 4th United Nations Conference on the least developed countries. Yeah, the ones that they're rampant for resources. Yeah, like the ones that they pay people $1 a day to like dig in their flip-flops in dangerous conditions to mine for cobalt, which is in all of our phones and computers. Yeah, those. The 3rd International Conference on Small Island Developing States, the 2nd United Nations Conference on Landlocked Developing Countries, and the 3rd United Nations World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction. That was probably when they did their little simulation on coronaviruses. Remember that? Right before coronavirus came out, or COVID-19. I don't want to misspeak about anything. We reaffirm all the principles of the Rio Declaration of Environmental Development, including inter alia, the principle of common but differential responsibilities, as set out in Principle 7 thereof. 13, the challenges and commitments identified on these major conferences and summits are interrelated and call for integrated solutions. It's very wordy. It's just very wordy. To address them effectively, a new approach is needed. Sustainable development recognizes that eradicating poverty in all forms and dimensions, combating inequality among countries, preserving the planet, creating sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, and fostering social inclusion are linked to each other and are independent. Yeah, I feel like they do these things that are so wordy so that nobody reads them. But this is like 41 pages. And if you listen in between the lines, you can figure out what the agenda is and why the world is unfolding how it is. And it's because they're getting this agenda to pass through no matter what. This is the goals from the whole world, they're saying, the people in charge. So, our world today, number 14, we are meeting at a time of immense challenges to sustainable development. Billions of our citizens continue to live in poverty and are denied a life of dignity. There are rising inequalities among countries. There are enormous disparities of opportunity, wealth, and power. Gender inequality remains a key challenge. Unemployment, particularly youth unemployment, is of major concern. Global health threats, more frequent and intense natural disasters, spiraling conflict, violent extremism, tourism, and related humanitarian crisis. Oh, terrorism. I said tourism. Oops. And forced displacement of people threaten to reverse much of the development progress made in recent decades. Natural resource depletion and adverse impacts of environmental degradation, including desertification, drought, land degradation, freshwater scarcity, and loss of biodiversity, add to and exacerbate the list of challenges which humanity faces. Climate change is one of the greatest challenges of our time. So this is the United Nations, drafted this in 2014, worked on it for a couple of years. Okay, they put this out September of 2015, the agenda of 2030, and they say the whole world is on board with this agenda, so that's why we see things unfolding, because this is what they plan for 2030. It's really wordy. People don't want to read it, so I'm just going to read it here. People can listen to it later, okay? As they go, if they want to hear the agenda. Right? So this is what they're saying. Climate change is one of the greatest challenges of our time, and its adverse impacts undermine the ability of all countries to achieve sustainable development. Increases in global temperature, sea level rise, ocean acidification, and other climate change impacts are seriously affecting coastal areas and low-lying coastal countries, including many least developed countries and small island developing states. The survival of many societies and of the biological support systems of the planet is at risk. So this was 2015, but aren't they saying that what happened in Maui was I think they're saying it's due to climate change, right? Number 15, it is also, however, a time of immense opportunity. Significant progress has been made in meeting many development challenges. Within the past generation, hundreds of millions of people have emerged from extreme poverty. Access to education has greatly increased for both boys and girls. The spread of information and communications technology and global interconnectedness has great potential to accelerate human progress, to bridge the digital divide, and to develop knowledge societies, as does scientific and technological innovation across areas of diverse as medicine and energy. Number 16. Almost 15 years ago, the Millennium Development Goals were agreed. These provided an important framework for development, and significant progress has been made in a number of areas, but the progress has been uneven, particularly in Africa, least developed countries, landlocked, developing countries, and small island developing states, and some of the Millennium Development Goals remain off track, in particular those related to maternal, newborn, and child health, and to reproductive health. When they are talking about reproductive health, they mean the ability to like have parental, what do they call that? Planned parenthood, being able to plan having kids, just FYI. So they don't like that. They're off track there, right? Developed countries and other countries, special situations in line. Relevant support programs, a new agenda builds on the Millennium Development Goals and seeks. Sorry, I lose my space. To complete what they did not achieve, particularly in reaching the most vulnerable. 17. In its scope, however, the framework we are announcing today goes far beyond the Millennium Development Goals. Alongside continuing development priorities such as poverty, eradication, health, education, and food scarcity and nutrition, it sets out a wide range of economic, social, and environmental objectives. It also promises more peaceful and inclusive societies. It also crucially defines means of implementation, reflecting the integrated approach that we had decided on. These are deep interconnections and many cross-cutting elements across the new goals and targets. Okay, here's the new agenda, folks. Number 18, we are announcing today 17 sustainable goals and 169 associated targets, which are integrated and indivisible. Never before have world leaders pledged common action and endeavor across such a broad and universal policy agenda. We are setting out together on the path towards sustainable development, devoting ourselves collectively to the pursuit of global development of a win-win cooperation, which can bring huge gains to all countries and all parts of the world. We affirm that every state has and shall freely exercise full permanent sovereignty over its wealth, natural resources, and economic activity. We will implement the agenda for the full benefit of all, for today's generation and for future generations. In doing so, we affirm our commitment to international law and emphasize that the agenda is to be implemented in a manner that is consistent with rights and obligations of states under international law. 19, we affirm the importance of universal declaration of human rights as well as in international instruments relying on human rights and international law. We emphasize the responsibility of all states in conformity with the Charter of the United Nations to respect, protect, and promote human rights and fundamental freedoms for all without distinction in any kinds of race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, disability, or other status. So I might just stop here. Just so I know, I'm on number 20 on page 10, but basically it's like paragraphs, and paragraphs, a call for action. There's all these like then there's sustainable development goals. There's all these sections, but a lot of it just goes on and on and on, and kind of like, it kind of just uses a lot of words to say a lot of nothing. But I didn't want to skip over the other stuff. But basically, the sustainable, I'll read off the sustainable development goals, and then I'll end there. But the goal 1 is end poverty in all its forms everywhere. Goal 2, end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Again, sustainable agriculture probably is now going to be like, the GMOs they created, which is actually like, I don't know, I can't speak a lot on GMOs other than they've put something inside the DNA of the fruits and vegetables so that the plant, like the bugs, don't go after it. But because what they've put in there actually, so the bugs don't go after it, is the ability for the fruit and vegetables not to die from like weed killer. So they spray our GMO vegetables with like weed killers. So that's kind of the bad part of it, is that you have all these all of those chemicals, okay, all over your fruits and vegetables. And then now they're going to make meat, I guess, in a lab, I've heard, because they're worried about the carbon footprint from cows, raising cattle and stuff. But it goes on and on and on, really, though, all the issues. But this is why our world is changing in the way it is, because these are the agendas, okay? So goal 3 is ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages. Goal 4, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education, promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. And these seem like great goals and like nothing sinister here, but the issue is, how do they implement these things when it's like we're not just, I don't know. Number 6, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. But if we check what's in our water supply, that's a whole other ball of wax, right? Goal 7, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. That too is a toughie. Goal 8, promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full, productive employment, and decent work for all. Well, don't know how they're going to do that. Goal 9, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. Goal 10, reduce inequality within and among countries. Goal 11, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Goal 12, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Goal 13, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Goal 14, conserve and sustainably use the ocean, seas, and marines resources for sustainable development. Goal number 15, protect, restore, promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems. It's probably why they're trying to get up to Mars. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, right? There's a reason. What do they know, right? Sustainably manage forests. Oh, I see a lot of things happening with our forests lately. Combat desertification and halt and reserve land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. Goal number 6 is promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Goal number 17, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalization, the global partnership for sustainable development. It just all goes back to sustainable development, climate change. It just, oh, the goals are interesting. Oh gosh. By 2030, eradicate extreme poverty for all people everywhere, currently measured as people living on less than $1.25 a day. Interesting. Ooh. By 2030, reduce at least by half the proportion of men, women, and children of all ages living in poverty in all its dimensions according to national definitions. Well, that's a lofty goal. I don't, with all this inflation, I don't understand how they're going to accomplish this. So that's what's creepy, is that these are the goals that they have set to accomplish. How are we going to do it? I guess it goes back to we need. I was gonna say something, but gotta be careful with what you say on here. So yeah, I don't know. I'll finish reading it. I'm gonna get off of here, but basically, I'll go back to page 10 and I'll just read it, and people can listen when they want to listen, you know, because the thing I'm seeing, noticing that is that people, none of us really know any, like, we don't research anything. We just believe that our government has our best interests. And we just believe what they say when they say it on the TV. And then it's like, what's really being done to, really combat poverty? Because I'll tell you, printing money and spending is not, these goals, and with current administration, my country, I don't really see them trying to work towards peace and prosperity and end poverty. And I don't see, these are great goals, but how are they going to implement them? Because what our administration's doing doesn't seem to be doing anything towards those goals. You see a few things with the equalities front, trying to push that a lot, right? But I don't know. I'm not. So with that being said, it's like there's got to be some drastic thing that's going to have to go down to like force this thing to happen, it seems, because so that's why I think it's important to study up on, what are they saying? What are the people in charge of us really saying that run things? Because they put it all out there and people think they know, but nobody bothers to like actually read through and look and at things. People don't, and I see a lot of people just accept what, oh, this is like medicine or something, like, oh, this is good for me, cool, I'm gonna take it. And then it's like, how many of us actually study the insert that the pharmacy gives us, like, who like really looks and reads it and looks at side effects and learns more about it, or tries to find an alternative, a natural alternative, or tries to use food, exercise, diet. There's so many other ways to cure ailments, but I feel like the pharmaceutical companies wouldn't make as much money. And it's like all these people trying to say they want all these things, but they're the first ones to go outsource things over to China, where people are getting paid like an impoverished wage in unsafe conditions, to have massive like profits on X, Y, and Z that they're selling. Like they don't, and then all the waste getting dumped into the ocean because they don't, and then they say, oh, we care about the environment, but they've trained all of us to be good consumers, right? And to buy more, spend. And so you say you want these things, but you're not promoting a culture in any way, shape, or form that is going to implement any of these things. So it's all about, keeping up with the Joneses, and the politicians, at least in my country, have gone crazy with this whole, more I learn about the Federal Reserve and the printing of the money that keeps happening, and then we sell our debt for an IOU, and then we pay back, and then it's a whole system of more. Meanwhile, you got people screaming, tax the rich, tax or pay your fair share, when it's like, you wouldn't have any of those issues if they weren't constantly had the money printing and spending. That's crazy. And then they trained us, oh, it's okay, you go take out debt, and you go get yourself a house, and you go, it's just get a credit card, put it on a credit card, and it's just, I don't know. The more I study on this stuff, the more frustrated I get with the way the system is, and I don't see a solution. I want solutions. I want answers. But the corporations that are pushing all these things on us, they're not doing the things that are lined up, these sustainable goals and to end poverty and have equality. They're not doing that. The things they're doing is not equaling that, right? So what's the answer then? How do we get there? I don't like a bunch of stuff being dumped into the ocean for a bunch of plastic crap that's going to break. It's ridiculous. This stuff is getting made cheaper and cheaper, and that bothers me. I've bought can openers that don't even open cans. The can breaks the can opener. It's okay, well, what did happen? Throw it in a landfill. Well, that was a waste. That was a waste of money, resources. The environment got harmed. What the hell? Right? Why? Why? Because we got to make money. We got to make profits. And that's, I don't know. I'm all about making money, making profits, but at the sake of harming people. That looks bad. It's it's not worth it. It's just, at what point does somebody have integrity to say oh, I could make a bunch of money, but I'd be putting out a product that would harm a lot of people. So you know what? I'd rather not have that money, It's just I don't understand a lot of things. But anyway, I gotta quit this rant, so...